I'm just gonna read it. So I can bring it on. Story time. I'm just gonna read story. Let's see, which one did I want? The historic and haunted Dravo Cemetery. For quite some time, the possibility of an encounter with the supernatural has been linked with paranormal investigators to a remote corner of Allegheny County. The location is appealing because it is what many would consider to be protected backdrop for a ghost story. That location is a historic Dravo cemetery in Elizabeth Township, established along what is known as the Great Allegheny Passage. The 200-year-old cemetery has recently become a popular destination for historic buffs and outdoor enthusiasts as well. For some, it is the window to the past. To others, it is merely a pleasant spot to rest before continuing on recreation trail. Ironically, the particular area has always been a sort of gathering place for the community. In the late 1700s, a European immigrant by the name of Nathan Newlon made a new life farming the land just west of the Allegheny River as his farm and family flourished. Newland was able to purchase additional property for crops and livestock. One of the parcels that he acquired was a grassy knoll that stretched from the riverbank to a small wooded gully, like early settlers often did. The young man converted part of the property into a cemetery for the departed members of his family. Eventually, the peaceful slope overlooking the river would also become a final resting place for Newlon after his passing in 1820. Around the same time, the extraction of the Pennsylvania natural resource triggered a number of employment opportunities across the region. With that came a dramatic increase to the population. Small mining villages were appearing all throughout the Allegheny River Valley. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Most of this budding community consists of only 4 or 5 houses and were usually named after the first family to establish a residence there. The village closest to the Newland Cemetery sat along a single-lane road that had been cut into a rugged hillside. Those living in the vicinity referred to the tiny hamlet of Stringtown because its houses appeared to be strung together in a straight line. To help accommodate the growing population, certain improvements were made around the community. One of the most noticeable changes occurred after Reverend William Dravo saw that the local Methodist congregation has outgrown the walls of the church he presided over. Because he was a dear friend of Newlon, Dravo asked the family to grant him permission to build a new church on the property adjoining the cemetery. The Newlon family agreed to the Reverend's request without hesitation. By the summer of 1824, the construction was well underway on a new Methodist church. Once the ground in front of the cemetery was leveled, the foundation stones for the building were set in place. Next, the wooden framework for the 2-story structure was erected on the site upon its completion. The new church was said to be large enough to accommodate nearly 200 parishioners. Over the next 4 decades, the Dravo Methodist Church continued serving the mining and farming communities on both sides of the Allegheny. During this time, new faces were always appearing in the crowd that gathered for the weekly sermon. Then progress came knocking on the door of the peaceful countryside. In 1875, the Pittsburgh and Lake Erie Railroad community began clearing timber for the development of a new rail line in West Pennsylvania. This particular branch was set to stretch from Pittsburgh to Connellville, with most of its rails following the windy path of the Allegheny River. During the early days of the construction, members of the Driveville Methodist Church expressed their concerns about having the railroad track so close to their church. Many believed that the noise from passing trains would become a major disruption of the sermon. When the tracks finally went into service in 1882, the sound of the railroad did become somewhat an annoyance to the parishioners. With time, though, the congregation of the church became accustomed to the sporadic trail traffic. According to historic traffic, the unimaginable happened just before the turn of the century. Arriving for Sunday service, members of the congregation were stunned to find that the smoldering remains of what had once been their beloved church. Friends and neighbors immediately began to question the circumstance behind the devastating fire. All others could do was weep. Despite their dismay, all of the present were thankful to learn that no one was inside the church at the time of the destruction. In the weeks that followed the tragedy, the facts surrounding I lost my place. The facts surrounding the blaze was still unclear. Regardless of the congregation made good on their vows to rebuild. The brand new house of prayer eventually appeared above the foundation of the previous church. In no time at all, the church services resumed along the peaceful riverbank. Much to shock of its older members, the congregation found itself facing the exact same devastation again in 1924. Just as it had happened nearly a quarter century before, another fire roared through the church, burned it to the ground. Once the terrible news spread throughout the valley, some residents refused to believe it. Instead, they rushed to the churchyard to see the truth for themselves. What they found was another gathering of people around the charred ruins. Only this time, they were suspicious of arson. Eventually, local authorities determined that the fire had been ignited by sparks flying out from the underneath passing freight trains. Suddenly, all of the unanswered questions pertaining to the first church fire were no longer a concern. However, some residents did wonder why a connection. Hi, Emmy. You're the only one in here. Suddenly, all of the unanswered questions pertaining to the first church fire were no longer a concern. However, some residents did wonder why a connection between the original fire and the railroad hasn't been made sooner. Safety and financial concerns would eventually bring church leaders to the difficult decisions of not rebuilding the church next to the railroad tracks. Those who regularly attend service at the Dreville Methodist Church were then directed to other Methodist churches in the area. With the silhouette of the Dreville Methodist Church missing from the river edge, Superstitious residents were soon regarding it as an omen. Oddly enough, it very well could have been. Within a few years, the mining companies that once thrived in the Allegheny River Valley were beginning to shut down operations. Disappointed employees were now forced to find work elsewhere. Because of this, entire mining villages suddenly became vacant. In time, even mighty P&LE railroad company would allow its rails to rust away when it abandoned the Allegheny branch. Almost 50 years would pass before the Drayville Cemetery and the ghost towns along the Allegheny returned to the public eye. According to local lore, the woods surrounding the old cemetery became the setting for a tale that some called too ridiculous to be true. As the story goes, a college fraternity from the Pittsburgh area held an initiation of potential members near the cemetery during the 1970s. Supposedly, the active member of the charter used flashlights to lead four freshmen through the darkness to a predetermined location by the P&LE railroad tracks. Once there, all four pledges were provided with shovels and instructed to dig their own shallow graves. When the task was completed, each candidate was handed a cardboard tube from an empty. Hi, Vince. Haven't seen you. How are you doing? Nice to see you. When the task was completed, each candidate was handed a cardboard tube from an empty paper towel roll. Next, the young men were ordered to die for the college brotherhood. Without objection, each pledge found his place in an open grave. After making sure that the cardboard breathing tubes were in place, those left standing proceeded to bury the pledges beneath a thin layer of cold, damp soil. After completing the first part of the ritual, the senior members of the fraternity made their way across the railroad tracks to the cemetery, with a very large tombstone serving as seats. That is the young men using tombstones as a seat. That is discrimination on the dead, for the dead. Okay. The young men began to pass around a bottle of alcohol. Once 30 minutes had passed, the brotherhood noisily returned to the woods to resurrect the pledge as new members. According to the familiar, yeah, I can't say the word, familiar with the story, something like that. The pledges as new members, according to the that was when the problem started. Presumably, the alcohol made it extremely difficult to relocate the buried pledges. It was said that the senior members spent the rest of the night searching for the cardboard tube protruding out of the loose dirt. Since there were never any police reports filed, most people tend to agree that the four pledged students eventually made it out of their shallow graves. The manner of how it happened is questionable, though. Of course, there are those storytellers who still like to imply that the pledges were never found. It wasn't long, and this story is pretty long. Well, I'm going to take a break here soon. Rest my voice. After her. Since there was never any police report filed, most people tend to agree that the four calls eventually made it out of the shallow grave. The manner of how it happened is questionable, though, of course, there are those storytellers who say, it wasn't long before there was something new for the community to talk about. In 1986, the Elizabeth Township Historic Society made an announcement that it had acquired a Dravo cemetery from the Methodist Conference of Pittsburgh. Through fundraising and volunteer donation and nonprofit organization was able to begin work on restoring the neglected cemetery. In the process, members of the Historic Society made some very interesting discoveries. Their search indicated that the Dravo Cemetery was the final resting place for over 700 citizens of the Allegheny River Valley. Of the total number, though, only 81 of the burial plots in the cemetery have identifying markers. And I lost my place again. Another surprise came from the discovery of the headstone that belonged to 9 veterans of the Civil War, 1 veteran of the War of 1812. Of course, both members and volunteers agreed that the most solemn find at the cemetery was the number of markers that belonged to young children. This provided the local historians with eventually of early childhood illness in the western Pennsylvania area. I'm going to take a break. No one's here anyways. I'm such a sad person. I don't care anymore. I know I've been gone a long time, but I needed it. I'm going to take Red out, and I'll be back. No one's here, so I'll be back as soon as I can. Whoops, I fell. Come on, Red. Redneck. Come on. Come on, you little redneck. Come on. Come on. Here we go. Come on. Come on. Come on. Let's go back out. Come on. Let's go. I'll be there as soon as I look around again. Oh. I'm back. I figured no one will be here anyways. Like I was saying, I'm such a real sad person. I sit in my trailer all day, me and Dawn. No company at all. None. I have 2 parking spots out there. Second parking spot's a yard now. Not a driveway, a yard. My daughter probably comes over every 2 weeks. And she probably stays about 15 minutes, she's gone. So, I'm a real sad person. My best friend sold my trailer, my first trailer to her. She lives right next door to me. She hates me. But her granddaughter and my granddaughter get along really good. We let them. But, what can I say? I come on YouTube, I watch all these Crime Watch, mostly Crime Watch, unsolved mysteries. I watch sad things because I'm sad. I'm a very sad person. So me and Dawn sit in this trailer all day by ourselves. And we just decided we don't need no one. All we need is each other. My family disowns me. That's another story. You guys heard the story, you disown me too. Boy, I wish I had a beer now. Okay, I'll finish the story. I gotta figure out where I was in it. While the Elizabeth Township Historic Society continues its work at the cemetery, one of the nonprofit organizations from the area were taking an interest in another project close by. In the mid-1990s, a joint effort was underway to connect the city of Pittsburgh to the nation's capital through abandoned railroad lines. This project was called the Great Allegheny Passage and C&W Towpath. Locally, a 43-mile section of the 335-mile recreational trail was known as the Allegheny River Trail. By the new millennium, the development of the Allegheny River Trail corridor of the Great Allegheny Passage was moved forward. The set rails of the former P&LE railroad line had long since been removed, and a smooth bed of crushed limestone had taken their place. Trailhead parking lots along the signage and benches were appearing in the town of Boston, Suttersville, and West Newton. When the community's interest in the new trail on the rise, the Elizabeth Township Historic Society seized the opportunity to generate additional funding for the preservation of the cemetery. It soon became evident that the volunteer activity in another around the cemetery was sparking the interest of those who now making use of the recreational trail. Due to the large number of individuals stopping at the cemetery for a closer look, a pavilion with picnic tables were constructed on the site of the former Methodist church. Additional park benches and rustic split rail fence were also installed on the property. The final act of the restoration came when the bronze plaque commemorating the history of the Dravo Methodist Church and the cemetery was added to the entrance. For many, the unveiling of the monument gave the cemetery the historic status it deserves in the community. Just a few steps away in the meadow bordering the cemetery, another project was taking shape. An organization known as the Original Trail Corporation was developing an area to be designated as a primitive campground. With plenty of shade trees, convenient access to the riverbank, location seems ideal for providing visitors such a place to unwind after a day on the trail. The discovery of a well thought to belong to the Newland family quickly became an access to the campsite once the test results deemed the water is safe for consumption. Not long after that, other amenities such as bicycle racks, public restroom benches, and fire rings became welcome additions to the site. Courtesy about the cemetery really peaked when a local newspaper featured an article about it in 2001. 7 people from all over Pittsburgh area were now making the trek to the historic site. Unknowingly, a few of the visitors would return with more than just memories of the relaxing day on the trail. Some of the very first stories of the strange sightings in the cemetery actually came from those passing by on the Allegheny River Trail rumors. They tend to spread about the apparition standing among the tombstones. Most of those accounts usually occurred whenever the trail users would glance into the graveyard. With legendary second glance, the shadow figures that were thought to be there had disappeared from view. Stranger yet are the tales of the sudden, abrupt wind gusts that surprise trail users on relatively calm summer evenings. Those who have experienced the phenomenon first-handed on mention hearing the chugging sound of the steam locomotive just before being hit by a blast of bitter cold air. Most peculiar, though, was how the majority of the individuals reporting these incidents had no prior knowledge of the tale. In fact, it was only after they shared the details of the encounter that they learned of what some called the Phantom Train. The stories of the unseen train continued to spread, trail users were now speculating that strange derailment near the Drabble Cemetery. Local historians, on the other hand, were quickly to point out that no such accidents was ever documented on the peculiar sections of the P&L railroad line. For the most part, the strange happenings along the recreational trail have been harmless. It is actually the ones coming from within the cemetery that are thought to have often the most frightening interactions with the unknown. While on a weekend excursion along the Allegheny River Trail, a local Boy Scout troop was making use of the new campground outside the town of Bona Vista. On the night grew dark, the scouts gathered around the warm glow of the campfire, proceeding to share spin-killing tales. It was long before the conversation prompted a few of the scouts to ask for permission to go and look for ghosts in the neighboring cemetery. Feeling that it was safe for them to do so, the three chaperones allowed the scouts to go unsupervised. It was a decision that some parents would later complain about. As it was told, there were plenty of giggles coming from the cemetery that night. The narrow beams from multiple flashlights scanned over the tombstones and cash piles on the exploring grounds. Soon all interested in finding ghosts turned into friendly game of tag. From the campsite, the scoutmasters could hear the sound of instant laughter over the crackling fire. Though through the trees, he could track the scouts' movements by watching the small circles of battery-powered lights. Just as he was about to call the boys back over to the camp, an unexpected happened. Without warning, a blood-curdling howl pierced the night. Suddenly screams of terror echoed in the river valley. The adults in the group immediately dropped what they were doing and raced to the hill to the cemetery. Before they could reach the top of the knoll, the darkened outline of children running came into view. The boys who were so eager to explore the cemetery were now out of breath, trembling in fear. Some of the boys were even crying. At the point, one of the teary-eyed Boy Scouts started to carry on about a vicious dog. When he determined that no one was physically hurt, the scoutmaster asked one of the chaperones to take the scouts back to the camp while he and another chaperone investigated the cemetery, armed with flashlights and pocket knives. The two searched the quiet graveyard thoroughly. Once they were satisfied that whatever had scared the boys was gone, the chaperones returned to camp. It was well after midnight before the Boy Scouts were finally calmed down for a time. The scoutmasters had even contemplated packing up the tents and moving the troop out of the area. After the boys were asleep, the adults continued to whisper about the story that the boys had told them earlier. The three men were still having difficulty believing in the glowing two-headed dog that supposed to lunge at the boys from behind a headstone. It if it hadn't been for the unearthly howl that was heard from the scouts panicked, the individuals watched over the group might have brushed off the entire incident as a hoax. For the rest of the night, though, the scoutmaster kept a watchful eye on the cemetery. In the early following, the boys' troops encountered with the unknown story of the spectacular two-headed dog continued to stimulate the imagination. The popularity of the legend has also brought a number of... Okay, I'm going to get off here anyways. No one's really here. In the years to follow, the Boy Scouts encounter with what known the story of the speckled two-headed dog continued to stimulate the imagination. The popularity of the legend has also brought a number of paranormal researchers to the cemetery in search of the ghostly animal. Some have theorized that the canine apparition is simply protecting the deceased master's grave and only becoming aggressive whenever someone gets too close. Others seem to think that the headstone with a dog etched on it indicate that the animal is actually buried in the cemetery. That's a good possibility. Although this spectral dog has rarely been seen, its presence in the cemetery is made known from time to time. To date, there have been numerous trails users who have reported hearing lonely howls coming from somewhere among the tombstones. On occasion, some visitors to the campground have been brave enough to enter the cemetery and investigate the disturbance. So far, the results have been inconclusive. Since its completion in 2013, the Great Allegheny Passage continued to attract visitors from near and far. Although the recreational trail appeals mostly to those seeking healthy lifestyles, leisurely activities, it has also opened the door for explorations of lesser known regional histories. Because of this, the story of the historic Dravo Cemetery will always have a life, or would that be an afterlife? Yeah, I take that. I took that book when I was in the hospital and I started reading it. I can probably like read 3, 4 chapters, then I gotta stop for it because I get sick when I read. But if I'm reading like I'm doing now, I'm okay. Thank you, Kay. I know it's so hard sometimes when I read because my am like teeth. I have problems saying words. I know what the word is, but I just can't pronounce it. I gotta go to the doctor's Monday, and I gotta go back Tuesday. Hi, J Mac. Thanks for stopping in. How are you, Ben? Yeah, I think that goes with old age sometimes. Right here. You guys ever see this? I look like I'm Elvis Presley lifting my lip up. No, that's the last time Don hit me. 8 stitches. He's never hit me again. He even called the police himself, taken to jail. I got back from the hospital, walked right back down to the bar and started drinking. Let's see what. And I got Pennsylvania cover bridges. I don't think they're stories. They're like this, and they have little stories underneath them about the bridge. Yeah, it's got two colors. See that? It's all going to be one color here in July. I'm coloring in July about them around my birthday. I'd color it now, but by the time the wedding gets here, I'll have a white streak going down. I love cover bridges too. My daughter had a friend, has a friend. I don't know if they're friends yet or not, but she went to a cover bridge. She got married at the cover bridge. Three Soul Paranormal, they just did a story on that cover bridge in Waterford, Pennsylvania. Three Soul Paranormal, great group out of Pittsburgh. They go all over. I just wish that I knew they were going to Waterford. That's like what, 20 miles from me? I could have went over and met them. See, I make friends, and it's just I'm alone. I don't have friends, and that's not me. I have a friend, but she's in West Virginia, so we do a lot of texting. We had our faults too, but we're still friends. I know, Kay, you'll always be my friend. You're my sister. Yeah, I'm really depressed tonight. The wedding's coming up, and the only people who are going to be there is my daughter Joetta, my daughter Jill, Allie. Allie's standing up with me. She's going to be right beside me. Spent $250 on her for the wedding. And I got to wait till next month to finish getting everything else. I gotta go find Dawn's jeans. I'm sorry. I have a house. It is so cluttered. It looks like a hoarder's house, and I don't know what to do. I've been throwing stuff out. That's all I can do is throw stuff out. There's gonna be a yard sale here. I don't even know if I'm gonna do a yard sale. I'm gonna go on a hunt again. See if I can find my SD cards. I just bought them. Oh, I got a book here called Michigan's Most Haunted. I don't know where my Allegheny, my Gettysburg one is. Judy! Depression. It's hitting me bad tonight. Like I was saying earlier in my thing here, I don't know if you guys are here or not, but Don and I sit in the trailer all day long. No friends. My daughter probably come visit. And she's probably here 15 minutes and she's gone. And we just sit in this trailer all day. I could only do a little bit at a time, but I'm getting the living room done. I got a lot of the medication around. I gotta throw it out. Hold on a minute. I gotta do something real quick. What? I got nerves. Oh, I was gonna do something else. Hold on. Okay. Now I'm gonna count something here now. Okay. I am on 19 medications. For pain, depression, anxiety. You know, my anxiety gets going. I pass out. I just go right to the ground. I went to the cemetery the other day with Ellie. She ruined my exploration thing. Yeah, it's hard. It's been coming on for a while. I'm trying. Like I said earlier, my house looks like a hoarder's house. It's a mess. Yeah. Last time I had my anxiety where I passed out was when my daughter got hit by a car. We were in front of the police station. Now, you know, I'm going to tell you how sad my family is. We're at the police station and this girl comes up. I want that girl, I want that girl. I said, you keep your hands off my daughter. And then I was down. I was on the ground. They called ambulance and everything in for me. I wouldn't respond for 15 minutes. I was just dazed. But I refused. I said, if I go to the hospital, all they're going to say is, what do you want me to do? You're the doctor, not me. That's what the last doctor told me when I went for an anxiety attack. What do you want me to do? That doctor's dead now. I have. Well, this one here is turning out to be like a, what do you want to call it? Therapy. I'm really depressed. You guys are here. I want to cry, but I ain't going to. I go through hell every day. I try to think happy thoughts. When I think happy thoughts, I want to cry. Thank you, J Mac. I hope. I want to get a roof over my porch. Because last year snow comes off my roof and I can't get out my door. So I got to find money for lumber. So I'm nothing but a sad person. Don't worry, people. No suicidal thoughts. None here. Tried it. Never worked. So I figured God says there's a place on earth for me. He don't want me yet, so.
You understand, though? You guys don't understand.
I think I'm gonna get off here. Go over and just work in JMX live. I ain't gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna talk, but I'll be there. I do. I know you love me. I'm trying, Judy. I don't know what's depressing me. I know one thing. This house. I have two rooms packed. That I gotta get the stuff out here. But I got so much stuff out here. I'm gonna have to go buy more totes. Oh yeah, I know I'm awesome. I gotta blow my nose. Sinuses and allergies. They both hit me. Oh, geez, I got antibiotics, but thank you, Judy. I love hearts. Well, I'm gonna have to get my stuff around tomorrow so I can show you. There's this one thing that I don't want to tell you guys what it is, but I gotta get it done before I get married. Okay, Judy. I knew that you knew how to get me to laugh. That was a bubble. Another reason I've been gone so long for lives, I'm tired of the bullying and all the bitching. And plus I had my back surgery, so I took time off. See my son today. He wants a picture of his dad, and I can't find one. I don't have any more. I gave him the only picture I had of his dad to him. I've been looking online, but I can't even find his. I don't want to call. A lot of my dad's friends have been going, I noticed. I don't want to play a funeral, not with you guys. I'm going to play a funeral, but I don't know where I'm going to be. Yeah, one of these days I'm going to go down to my daughter's and go tubing down Allegheny River. Get on a tube and just go down. I want a kayak. I really want a kayak. It sounds fun, don't it? Judy, where do you live? Probably south. Australia? Dang. I'd come over there, but The snakes you guys have? No, thank you. I love snakes, but those snakes scare me. I think I know where I put my SD cards. Somewhere they shouldn't have gone. I got a new toy. Dawn bought me a new toy. I gotta show you guys. And I didn't know he was getting it for me. Okay, it's a REM pod. Oh, too close. Got me a new toy. Yeah. How's the weather down yonder? Hot. I thought it was nice. I was surprised. The attic junkie, that's where he got it from. I gotta go and check that guy out. I'm glad Kay and Judy you're here. Well, I'm taking away blue and then I'm giving blue back to certain people because I don't want everybody blue. Hey, a skull pod. Look at that. What am I doing tomorrow? I don't know. I think it's pretty neat. I might get it. You're welcome, Kay. I'm gonna have just like only 7 people as moderators. But I know who I want, but this having everybody blue. You're welcome too, Judy. I couldn't do it. Yeah, this guy's cheap. Paranormal Shadow Tracker. No, that's all he has. Oh, look at that. That's a pentagram 3-in-1 custom paranormal research box. Wow. Footstep tracker, paranormal geophone. Hey, I want those. balls that light up. I'm gonna get some of this stuff. And this stuff looks nice. Um, I'll look at this and I'm gonna get a. I need to get a charging crystal. I'm gonna get that skull. Don asked me what I want for a wedding gift. I got almost everything. That's what I want. Um, we're heading for August 8th. I'm gonna post pictures on my Facebook. I was hoping to see my. I have a shadow that walks around here. It's a little boy. His name's Alex. He don't bother me at all. There's a few things in there I want to get. I want to get that skull. And I want to get that temperature thing. Really? I was trying to get married 3 days before my birthday. I'm a July baby. I'm a July baby. I didn't take all my Christmas stuff down. And I have that there. My granddaughter made that for me. Let us know. I'm going to get a picture frame, put it in. And she wrote me a letter too. I'm going to put that in the frame. So that's 2 picture frames I got to get. I'm going to get off here and go over and watch J Mac. But I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to sit and lurk. I like the way he's good. I like the way he's changing. His channel is soothing, quiet, nice. Guess what? I didn't have no trolls tonight. That's a great thing. I'll be on tomorrow night, but I'll be on earlier. I'll be on earlier, like 9 or 10 o'clock my time. Oh, thank you. I love my hearts. There's another person gives me hearts. I can't think of who it is. Always gives me hearts when he comes in. Okay, I'll see everybody tomorrow night. Love you all. Bye. Bye, Judy, Judy, Judy. Now I gotta figure it out. Okay. Up there in the corner. Love you.